If you've attended a creative lighting workshop in the past few years, you've probably heard the terminology shutter drag thrown around here and there. And that's because in the past couple years, it's become a lot more popular. But it's a technique that's been around for a long time, so we're gonna break down exactly what it is in this video. Hello, I'm Jeahn Laffitte, commercial photographer and educator, and I'm here for Professional Photographers of America to explain to you how the shutter drag technique works. So what is shutter drag? Well, if you've ever seen a photo that looks like this, that has really cool light streaks and then into the frozen exposed image of a person, that is kind of what we're calling shutter drag. Now, really what it is a double exposure technique where you're using continuous lighting mixed with strobe lighting to create this effect. And what's become really popular in the last few years, especially with RGB LED lighting becoming more accessible, cheaper, and better quality, is we have photographers using those in conjunction with their strobes to create really cool, beautiful, saturated and vibrant color techniques, and using continuous lighting alongside strobe lighting to create these really beautiful effects. Now, I've just begun doing this in the past year or so, and it's really become an addicting thing. It adds a lot of interest to a photo. It creates a lot of unique shapes, and you can do almost anything with it, and it just makes people go, wow, how did you achieve that? So that's the super fun thing about this technique. The creativity is unlimited. You can really open up Pandora's box of opportunities when it comes to your concepts, and it's just a really fun thing to try with your friends and with other photographers, or to just experiment with on your own. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive into how I made this photo of the Ice Queen, as well as show you a couple of other examples of some work that I've done. So what does the term shutter drag actually mean? Well, in recent times, it's begun to mean this dual exposure effect, but really all it means is that you're slowing your shutter down so that you get a little bit of motion blur. And that means you're dragging the exposure across the frame, whether you're moving the camera or your subject is moving. It's the same exact thing, but the difference is with this particular technique is that we're introducing the strobe alongside it, and the strobe's flash duration is fast enough to freeze motion so that you kind of get this best of both worlds where you have the motion blur and the sharpness that you need. So really it comes from just the term of slowing down your shutter speed, but it's become known as this technique. Or maybe that's just the way that I think about it. I don't know, you tell me in the comments below. So that's a super basic description of what's happening, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you with a real demonstration how it works and how I made these different photos. Okay, so to show what's happening in the real world, I'm just gonna show you really quickly a manual demonstration of what's going on. So basically you would have a continuous light, which this little LED represents here, and you can change it to whatever color that you want or set it to have effects or whatever you want. Or you could use the ambient lighting. You could use window light, you could use the lights from the room or whatever. But whatever you do, you just need to have some sort of continuous light source, and the more you can control that, the better results you will get in general. So then you need the strobe. So what's happening is your shutter will open, and then of course your sensor will begin collecting light. And then ideally your subject that is affected by the continuous light will be moving throughout the shot, leaving a trail of light wherever it goes. And then the exposure will terminate, and this will no longer create any more light on the sensor. And then what happens is at the end of the exposure, at least in most cases, the strobe will go off. Now, this happens if you have your camera set to rear curtain sync. So in your menu, you would hop in there and you would go to your flash modes. You will find fill flash and rear flash. And what you want in most cases for this effect is rear curtain sync. And that means that the strobe goes off at the end of the exposure so that wherever the light trail goes, it will look as though the subject left that trail behind them. Whereas if you did front curtain sync, what would happen is the exposure would start, immediately the strobe would go off, and then the light would continue to streak. So say your subject's here, you would have them frozen here in time, and then they move across the frame, and then they end up here. So if they're walking forward, it'll look like the streaks are going in front of them. So for this effect, in general, most of the time, you're going to want to use rear curtain sync. And of course, the strobe is not affected by your shutter speed, so that will always keep your subject frozen whenever it goes off. So that's what's happening in very simplistic terms. To balance the exposure, you need to control your light power of the strobe and the LED, you need to control your aperture and your ISO, and then I recommend taking exposures of each element separately to make sure that you get them locked in and nailed down first. And because you're shooting with higher shutter speeds, you'll probably need to black out your studio. So in most cases, you'll need to throw up a blackout curtain or be in a dark room for this effect to really work well, unless of course the ambient lighting that is available to you is part of your set design. Now, something else to keep in mind is your background color is really important for allowing this effect to show up really well. Light trails really show up well against a dark background because that provides the most contrast for the light trails to stand off on. And if you try to create light trails over a pure white background, well, it's only going to remain white because white is already maximum exposure, so you can't actually expose over a white background. So it's really important to know how your lights are hitting your subject and being affected so that you're not washing out hues and things like that. And that's something else I want to talk about, is that light control in these situations is very important. So you want to make sure that your lights aren't competing against each other, especially if you have like a key light like this that's really bright and washes out the whole scene. Well, it's going to override a lot of your light trails and kind of make them dull. So you just want to make sure to control your lighting. A lot of times using grids makes this really easy so that everything is really saturated and bright and those light trails remain very prominent. So basically, you imagine that your shutter opens and then your subject is moving and it's leaving light trails around the scene, and at the end of their motion, the strobe goes off and your shutter closes. And now you can see through the simulation how this affected the exposure. So that's just a super basic explanation. I have some behind the scene footage of the day that I actually took these long exposure shots, so I'm gonna go ahead and break them down for you so you can see exactly how it works. So real quick, I just want to talk about my self-portrait here. This is the 3D set, just 3 lights, 1 constant red light, and then 2 strobes, 1 for a kicker and 1 for the face there as a split light. And I just got myself into this little rhythm here with my remote and did it all by myself. That's really all there was to that one. And I always like to show the 3D software because it really helps provide a clear context and view of how the set turned out. Now it looks a little bit complicated, but really the only thing you need to do this effect is 2 lights, just a continuous light and a strobe light. And of course, having RGB continuous lights or gels can make it more fun and exciting, but there are so many ways to use this effect. There's really no rules at all. This is just the way that I did it. So we have 3 lights here. The strobes are this top light. So if I solo that, you can see how it's creating a nice rim light around her. And then we have the key light here, which is putting a nice short lighting Rembrandt or loop light on her face. And then down here we have this fill, which is just filling in the shadows with this nice dark blue. And that is a gridded light there. And then the continuous lights are right here. It's this one on the side that create this really nice edge light effect over here. And then we have this one on the opposite side. And I think actually later in the shoot, this one I felt like was competing too much with the key light. So I actually ended up turning it off altogether. So this is what the shot would look like more or less if the subject wasn't moving. All right, so here is the actual set. You can see that I have the LED panel on the right on, and the one on the left is already off at this point. And I just threw up my iPhone here for some quick behind the scenes. I wasn't anticipating doing a full-on tutorial for this, so I apologize. But as you can see, the light is actually changing color from purple to blue, and that's because I was trying to get kind of like this really cool fade of color throughout the light streaks. So I just had my assistant there helping me turn the color, and you can see that the timing, we kind of get into this rhythm. So my model Grace, she would get up into her starting position, which is facing away from the camera right here. And then she swings into the camera and the flash goes off. So what I'm doing is, because it's on rear curtain sync, is right when she starts her motion, I'm starting my shutter. I hit the shutter on the camera, and then she swings forward and times it so that the flash goes off right when she's finished with her movement. And you don't have to do it this way, but this is the flow we got into, and you just start to go crazy. It becomes really addicting. You can just, you could go all night doing this and get tons of different variations because every single swing is different, every single motion is different. This ended up being about a half-second exposure, and I have a little simulation here at the end from the iPhone footage, which isn't a great representation of what's happening, but at least it kind of shows you in real time how that streak effect happens. So I'm just going to go ahead and let that play here, and we'll wrap up the tutorial.
I'm just doing the same thing.
These long exposures look so cool. This is all just straight out of camera, by the way. It's like magic. So in a nutshell, that's what's happening. It's not really magic, but it really creates magical results where people are just jaw drop when they see it. They're like, how'd you do that? It was obviously Photoshop or obviously CGI. And you can say, no, actually I did this all in camera under one exposure and there's minimal retouching. And they're gonna be like, wow, that is crazy. So it's a really fascinating technique. I'm honestly addicted to it and I want to continue to implement it more and more in my work. So I hope you learned something really useful in this video. If you did, give it a like and leave a comment below telling us what you'd like to learn, or if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you're excited to learn more, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're notified when new tutorials drop. And also check out ppa.com. There's all sorts of amazing learning resources there. They have contract templates, they've got insurance you can look at. There's all sorts of amazing benefits to being a member of Professional Photographers of America. But with that, my name is Jeahn Laffitte, and I'll see you soon.